to order at 5:33. This is a regular meeting of Aurora City Council, Thursday, July 6th. Can we get a roll call, please?
Jobs?
Here.
Cody?
Yep.
Hess?
Here.
Hunkla?
Here.
Gregor?
Sort of here.
Item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, the consent agenda is items marked with an asterisk. Items 4 through, we'll start 4 through 9 and 12 through 13.
All lowercase.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to appearances and public forum. Item number 10 on the agenda. Any public would like to speak tonight? Now is the time, including those that are on Zoom. Mayor Gregor, would you like to make any comments during the public forum?
I'm hoping I'll be able to make some comments during the mayoral portion of the agenda.
Of course.
But, would it be more appropriate to do it now?
What is the legalities
That's,
of?
I think he can speak
Okay.
during the matter.
Yes.
Yeah, just Doug, so we're not doing it throughout the whole meeting, back and forth like you're here, but we can do that during the mayoral part, I believe is fine.
Okay.
You're a member of the public today, so we have to treat you as such, but that's fine.
Okay.
You try to get in there?
Yeah, just as it's connecting, right? Just thinking about it.
Item number 11. Administrator, can we move on to 11?
Yep.
Okay. Reports from staff members. We'll start with Attorney Carney.
Just what's on the agenda when we get to it.
Thank you. Our librarian already spoke earlier. Administrator.
I'm good, yep.
Okay, and the other guest will have a 15-minute presentation at a different time, correct?
Yep,
Later
we'll
in
do
the
this
agenda.
presentation later.
Yep,
Yep.
all right. Okay, reports from counselors. Counselor Godey, would you like to share?
What I'd like to talk about is the HRA had a second meeting and we gave the remaining grants or matching fund money. We've not given the money yet, but picked who was eligible for the $1,000 matching money if they spend $2,000 or more. And
Something simple.
we really had a pretty good turnout. I think there was 17 had applied, and so we gave out or picked up all the successful people. And when it's all done, Mary's going to try to tabulate what this generated in total spending in the community to show how much it benefits the community for making everything look better. And the other thing is, there was a time when the counselors had talked about wanting to talk to the grocery store people face to face, and I've brought it up a couple times at the HRA meeting, and I think we really need to talk to somebody face to face. Every month we get a letter, basically the same letter with the date changed. You know, it's not going anywhere right now. So
Do you think that we should officially invite them, and then if they disregard our invitation, we'll know where we stand and we know we won't have a meeting?
yeah, well, I think it would be good to talk to them instead of just get the same letter over and over.
The only issue is HRA has been handling that issue that, want, so you're not kind of stepping on their toes, that, if that's what the council wants to do.
Yeah, well, I can ask the HRA to try to set it up then. I've mentioned before that the counselors had mentioned that they'd like to talk to them.
You'll get an update from them.
Yeah, it just, every month we get the same letter. We're working on it.
It's not moving forward, we're all aware.
That's really all I have to talk about today.
Thank you. Counselor Hess?
Don't have too much. I guess a hats off to the Celebrate Aurora committee for a job well done again, and also to the city crew along with the students for a lot of work that they end up doing for this project. So that's about all I got.
Thank you, Counselor Hess.
Yep, so planning and zoning, we had a great planning and zoning meeting the other day. I'm excited to announce that we have approximately $60,000 in upgrades going into Aurora, so that's kind of exciting, along with the HRA grants that are going out. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. We had a Rams meeting. Christy Kearney talked a little bit about the New Range Copper Nickel mine. We are taking a hiatus for the Rams meeting, so we won't be meeting now until the end of September. I wanted to I'm excited. We did a housing board meeting. It's called the Northeastern Minnesota Housing Institute. You're gonna hear me call it a housing board. That's a lot for me to chew on right there. We'll be meeting once a month. I'm really excited about this meeting. And we will have 6 meetings where we meet, like in Grand Rapids, so it'll be a big area. We're going to be talking about different ways to like improve housing and what we can do for our communities, etc. So you'll be hearing from me a little bit more on that.
Is it open to the public?
That I don't know. I can ask and find out if it's open to the public. So yeah, it's really I'm really excited about that. So last thing I want to say, thanks to the city staff, the Celebrate Aurora committee, the Public Works for pulling off another great 4th of July or 3rd of July celebration. Everything was cleaned up beautifully the next morning. So again, accolades to them and thank you. That's it.
All right. I'll give my report and then I'll allow time for Mayor Greger if he's still on Zoom. So I just want to echo what my fellow councilors stated about Celebrate Aurora. Great event. Lots of people stuck around after the parade. It was rack stacked and packed. It took a lot of work from Public Works to get it set up, the barriers out, the town looking nice. Spruce Up Aurora has maintained our flower beds very nicely. I also wanted to give a shout out to the East Range Police Department, Hoyt Lakes Ambulance. They were in the parade, of course, and have outreach to the community. I personally have witnessed the East Range Police Department talking, chatting with residents, chatting with kids. The Hoyt Lakes Ambulance Service stopped at area parks and where kids are and giving out frozen treats. These are all great engagements to get kids, not so scared of those officials, which would go along with the National Night Out thing if we were to give it. Thank you to the businesses that provided additional entertainment during the 3rd of July that really helped keep people down there. We had live music, we had kids games, we had axe throwing thanks to Councilor Joss and Zups North Realty. Thank you, a big thank you to the fire department because they put a lot into this parade. They threw out candy, they set up kids games and they also set up the fireworks. So they were up late watching and maintaining the fireworks as they were lit off and they didn't get home till late. So I appreciate all those efforts. And that is where I end my report, and I allow for some time for Mayor Greger to give his mayoral part, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I was cut off for a while there. I think I left off with Dan's messages there, so I apologize if I duplicate anything there. I just want to echo what I gather with the gist of what Councilor Hochler was saying. Certainly just a broad round of high fives and kudos to everybody that pulled together to make such an amazing celebration period of time in the community, and for all the citizens that came out. I mean, it was, as I was driven around on the parade route, just so impressive. sort of glee and genuine numbers of turnout that showed up for that. To more immediate business, let's see, the water board. The project is continuing to move ahead full steam. The board met in June and basically targeted August as the time to be prepared to go out for bids on that now estimated $27 million project. In advance of that, the late August sort of bidding, the plan was to have an August 24th community informational session at the Aurora Community Center, and there will be a number of preparations and announcements leading up to that, but it's a further sign that this is going to be real and it's going to take place. The one of the last links that had fallen into place was an updated Lake Mine water level status report, and that was prepared by Bar Engineering and completed, and the MnDOT or the DNR has given it a favorable nod for satisfying their requirements. The MnDOT permits have been obtained for the water main burying within the right-of-ways there. And the only big hang-up, incidentally, is the federal funds bring with them a requirement to comply with the Buy American, Build American standards that are still being developed by the Environmental Protection Agency. So there's a question of how the bidders can anticipate which items will qualify and won't qualify. We're hoping that's not going to delay the bidding, but the team, the engineers are all working on that. Just some meetings up to date. Secretary of State Steve Simon was at a meeting at Rams, attended by a large number of local public officials, and he got an earful on workforce development and environmental processing, permit processing concerns, and then the range mayors meeting that was held, we had an earful of all the legislation that's coming our way. It's just interesting to find both at the league conference that I think was referred to earlier, at the mayor's meetings, various RAMS events. It's just a matter of digesting all of this, but that's an exciting time, I think, for all of us to experience. Then the Northern Lights Music Festival, one last plug, it's in full swing. Tickets and appearances are available at the auditorium and around town. And the opera, La Boheme, is going to be performed on July 14th. All exciting events for the community, and look forward to getting to as many of those as possible. So that's my report, Councilor McCluck.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 16. It's old business. It's resolution number 2023-23, ordinance number 99. This is an updated version of an interim ordinance prohibiting the sale, testing, manufacturing, cultivating, growing, transporting, delivery, and distribution of cannabis products in the city of Aurora.
This is what we're looking to have a public hearing on, and if Mr. Carney wants to add anything to it, but we would put these on for voting. The tobacco ordinance, all we're doing there is, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some conflicting language with the old one.
Right. Well, that's coming up, isn't it?
Yep, so we're gonna take care of that at that public hearing, and then we're gonna put the moratorium on for the cannabis one, but we have to set a public hearing 10 days out to do that. So I was gonna throw it Thursday, July 20th. Any of you are available that day, and it can be morning or afternoon.
If if we do I can do morning, but it'll have to, I mean, I have to be out of here by 11, otherwise I could do after 2:30.
And I have an event on the 20th, so I couldn't do the afternoon.
Could we do the
So,
morning at 10
morning?
o'clock? Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it would take
Won't
us very long.
Okay.
Okay,
July
that
20th.
Work for everybody? 20th?
yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so we would need
At 10 o'clock, you said?
10 o'clock on the 20th, yep. So I'd like to see if you guys could move to table that and set it at the public hearing, set the public hearing on July 20th at 10 a.m. up here. Yep.
Look for someone to-
I'll make that motion.
Okay, number 2.
I'll support it.
Has beat them to it.
All right.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to new business item, 17.1, Resolution 2023-25, Caring for Kids Community Donation. Several things are documented to be earmarked. 1A, B, C, D in your packet, $1,200 to for additional expenses associated with the Cabana, $1,500 to holiday lighting contest and holiday heritage, $1,000 for the purpose of Aurora Fire Department Santa Run, and $40,000 earmarked for the next project in a park, city of Aurora.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion?
The 1,000 to the fire department, is that a problem?
It is not a problem if it's given to the city and the city then provides the candy.
But the way it's worded for the fire department?
That's the Fire Department Relief Association.
Okay.
This is the fire department, which is governed by the city of Aurora, which would then be acceptable, correct?
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I just didn't want to have
Yep,
that
have a
glitch
double, yep,
again.
yep. Thank you for that. So it's been moved and supported and discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, moving on. 17.2, Community Center fee waiver for the Iron Range Historical Society. I assume they're a nonprofit.
They are a nonprofit. It's in the packet, the letters in there. They've done this before in the past, so we've done this with nonprofits.
Does that conflict with our October events? First weekend of the month?
Well, let me just check.
October.
Yeah, because we did that last year.
We
Yeah,
double booked
we-
the community center and they put a lot of effort into Pumpkin Fest.
Okay, so October 7th is a Saturday, so let me,
Yep.
do we know what date Pumpkin Fest is?
Usually it's the first weekend, isn't it the first
I'm
weekend?
not-
So if it is, let's table this, and then we'll double check that, there's
Okay.
plenty of
Okay.
time.
Okay.
That's a good catch, so
Who
let's
would
table
like to
that.
make the motion to table?
I'll make the motion to table.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll
Motion
take-
carried to table. 17.3, approve long-term financial management plan. I understand we have a 15-minute presentation and a guest here. Would you like to state your name?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Dan Tinter. I'm a municipal advisor with Ellers and Associates. And I do have just a brief presentation for you. I will do my best to keep it to the 15 minutes. Okay. Well, thank you again for having me this evening to talk about the financial management plan. It's my understanding that the council would have an opportunity to chat about it before. So if I gloss over any details or you want some more particular color on some things that are included in the proposal, feel free to interrupt me. I'm happy to speak to any component of it. Just a few things I want to mention. First, we're going to call a little bit of an audible from what is in the proposal. The proposal includes Nick Anute as being assigned to your advisory team. We're actually proposing that we would assign Todd Hagan. I was at the McCatfo conference, which is for the county auditors treasurers, and Todd and I were talking, and he had mentioned he had already had a conversation with Norma Jean about some of the needs of the city, and so he asked very respectfully if he could join the team rather than Nick, and so we chatted with Nick and he was okay with that. So assuming that the council is comfortable with that change, as you can see here, Todd has been with Ellers for 22 years and he has 35 years plus experience in public finance. So he is more than able to help the city evaluate its needs as we go through the financial management planning process. As mentioned, my name is Dan Tinter. I'm municipal advisor with Ellers. Before I joined Ellers a couple years ago, I was the finance director and city treasurer for the city of Fridley, which is just north of Minneapolis. And then before that, I was actually a city administrator out in Winstead, Minnesota. So if you're familiar with the Woodstock Country Music Festival, that's their claim to fame. So I was doing that a few years ago. And then also assigned will be Elizabeth Diaz and then Kyle Sawyer as CPA. They'll help us crunch all the numbers and run all the scenarios and provide all of the analysis for the city. Just a little bit of a background about Ellers. We are a firm of about 80 people, so we're still technically a small business, but we've got a lot going. As mentioned on the slide, we've done over 2,500 bond issues in the state of Minnesota that more than $15 billion in par value. We're actually ranked #1 in Minnesota for the number of bond issues advised, based on the latest year of Bloomberg data. And of particular importance to the city is we've conducted in the last 5 years more than 100 long-term financial plans and more than 200 fiscal studies. So we do this a lot. We talk with a lot of communities. We go to a lot of places. I like to joke that our faces are maps of Minnesota. So we have been around and we've seen how a lot of different communities do it, and we like to bring that experience to bear anytime we work with a new community. So you're benefiting from all of the financial studies that we have done before. We've completed more than 350 economic development projects, all the way up to $640 million, which is actually Target World Headquarters. So we've worked on that as well. And then we have chatted a little bit about potentially working with the city and talking to you about some of the investment opportunities for some of your uninvested funds. And we do have that affiliated business. And at this point in time, we are managing about $2.2 billion in assets under management for various Minnesota cities, counties, school districts, special taxing jurisdictions, what have you. So just a little bit about the Minnesota team. This would be the folks that the city of Aurora would work with. You would have your lead advisory team, which were noted on the previous slide. But we have 12 municipal advisors that have a range of experiences. They've spent more than 150 years in combined experience working on issues that affect cities and counties and school districts. So we are, whatever kind of things that we encounter through your financial management process, we have a deep bench to draw on to get a lot of insight and feedback from our team. And then 7 fiscal consultants. I won't bore you with the right half of the slide. That's for all bonding and whatnot, for dissemination and arbitrage if we ever go down that path. But this is really the team that would be working on your plan. We'd have our lead folks, but then we always have the bench to help us out if we ever encounter any questions, or if the council is interested in a particular thing, or the city administrator has a question and we don't know off the top of your head, we can always go down the bench a little bit. So we work with cities all over the state. In fact, we work with cities and counties and school districts across 5 states. We have more than 1,500 clients. We only work exclusively for public agencies, and we apply a fiduciary standard to all of our work. So we are, as a municipal advisor, I'm licensed by the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board in the SEC. And essentially it says that we have to always put our own interests second to yours. So we always do what's in your best interest, and we only work for public sector clients. So there are never any conflicts of interest with other entities that could potentially be affiliated with the city. So that's a really long way of saying that we're always in your corner, and we're only in your corner. We don't work with anyone else, and our first obligation is to the best interests of your community. And as mentioned, with all the cities here, some are a little closer and some a little farther away, but we do bonding, economic development consulting, and financial planning with some of them, all of them. Kind of depends on what they're interested in and what they're up to. So a little bit about the financial management plan. We've had a couple meetings with city staff, and so we have and they've also provided us with a bunch of information, meaning your most recent audits and also some of your current and past budgets. So we do know there are a few things on the horizon for the city. First and foremost, Bolton and Mink has prepared an infrastructure plan that is right now by 2032 rated at about $13.3 million. So there are some questions there about how to pay for it, how to finance it, how to incorporate all of those needs into the financial position of the city. We do know also that there is a forthcoming facilities capital improvement plan that will address some of the needs of the city from a facilities perspective, and depending on when that's available, can also be incorporated into the financial management plan. It's worth noting that the financial management plan can be updated on an annual basis, so we can always go back and put in new information. It's a very robust tool. It's a totally customizable, very complex macro-enabled Excel spreadsheet, but we can also go back in and fiddle with it as needed. As one of my colleagues likes to joke, we can do a lot of what-ifing on behalf of the council if you're interested. And we do know from talking to the city administrator that there's a very strong desire for a lower local tax rate. So something that the financial management plan does is we'll project out 10 years. We'll put in a series of assumptions, which we'll walk the council through when we have a presentation, assuming the council approves the proposal. And then we would show you, based on those assumptions, where we thought your tax rate was going and what decisions or levers the council could pull along the way, understanding that there are some competing interests with some of the projects that are being contemplated through some of the capital plans. So it really gives the council an opportunity to take a glimpse at the future based on what we know today. It is a best guess, and then weigh some pros and cons and make some decisions and really build some consensus around what the financial position and financial future of the organization would look like. And then this will not necessarily be addressed in this study because we are focusing on property tax supported funds, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, I have more than $39 million for water and wastewater improvement projects, but I understand the mayor just said that the price of poker has gone up a little bit for the water plant, so we're probably a little light on that $39 million. But we want to keep that in mind as we move forward, because we do like to understand that the services that residents and business owners pay for in the community, there are taxes, but then there are also the other charges for services like utility fees. So we'll keep that in mind. Not necessarily going to be addressed as a part of this study, but it's such a large generational project for the community that we want to make sure that we at least have it in the back of our minds as we go through this process. But through all of that, as I mentioned, the goal of the plan is to protect the financial position of the city and make sure that you have the resources that you need to accomplish the vision that the council has laid down for the organization and the community at large. So I won't go through this in tremendous detail, and I will leave some PowerPoints for you so you can look at it. But really what we end up doing is we're going to review the financial position of the organization, which we've already done in some respect. We'll go through a phase where we'll compile any capital needs and any operating needs. So these are things like the CIP for streets, or I'm not saying this is the situation here, but we often work with cities that maybe want to add a couple staff members. So if we need to fold those into the process and figure out what those kind of look like over time. And then through that, we'll identify some initial issues, concerns, opportunities that the organization may have. As I mentioned, we'll review and incorporate all of that tax information to make sure that we understand the tax impact and the change in rates over the planning period, which will be 10 years. And then from that, we really develop that financial management plan, which will be a document that will eventually be distilled into a PowerPoint presentation that will be presented to staff and the council to walk you through the recommendations and the insight that are provided by the plan. Along the way, we'll analyze any alternatives. The proposal does include the opportunity for 2 different scenarios, so we can model a couple different approaches for the community. We'll make recommendations and first present them to staff and the city administrator, so they, much like you do with many other things, they'll get the first pass and give us some feedback and some insight, and then we will present to the council. In the proposal, we'll give the opportunity for 2 meetings, so we'll come, present the initial recommendations. We often find that we get a lot of feedback from the council, a lot of questions, comments. Did you think about this? Could you model this and maybe fiddle with that? And then we'll come back a second time and show you some of those changes and what they look like. And then eventually, once the council accepts the plan, then you essentially use that as the baseline for the preparation of your budget for next year and future years. So you really have the opportunity to take that longer look, to use a tortured phrase, deeper dive into the finances, and then hopefully from that process, we find often it makes the budget process pretty straightforward because we've been kind of down the rabbit hole and talked about all the moving parts. So really with the financial management plan, you're going to get a few deliverables. We're going to include the general fund, a couple special revenue funds, and the debt service funds, and take a look at all of the ins and outs that are associated with those. And then with those funds, we'll provide a 10-year projection with all of the information that was discussed, like the property tax impacts. We'll look at any capital improvements. If there's additional debt that's needed, so if it happens to be that the community has to bond for a particular project, let's say like a fire truck or something like that, we'll include those and discuss the property tax impacts and phasing and some things that can happen there. We'll look at any new operating costs and then mention property tax impacts, and then we'll provide you with all of the presentation materials, because we often find that members of the council like to use this to talk to members of the public about why it is the council decided to do A, B, or C, or X, Y, and Z. So you'll have that information at the ready if you were ever so inclined to use it. And then really from there, as I mentioned, we'll use those documents to build that consensus and help you make some choices about both the current financial position of the organization and future decisions vis-a-vis your tax rate, capital projects, operating needs, and any other concerns that the council may have. And then lastly, one thing that is discussed on a previous slide that I did mention, there is the opportunity, if the council were so inclined, and it's mentioned in the proposal, we do this for a lot of communities where we'll come back annually and work with staff and update the financial management plan and do another presentation. So we have many clients that have opted for that, where essentially we use that to kind of kick off your budget process, where we incorporate kind of last year's data and then come back to the council and say, okay, we've got some more information, this is how things have changed, what if anything would you like to do? We've made progress, we haven't made progress. It really gives you an opportunity to check in. So that's not necessarily included in the proposal this evening, but it's something I do always want to make councils aware of, that it's a service that we provide and often folks find of value. So I wasn't timing myself, but I think I was under 15 minutes.
You were under 15 minutes.
But I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have about the proposal, anything included in the presentation, or just any questions generally about Ehlers as a firm.
So this is something that I had brought up to you guys when we did our budget prioritization meeting, and then the next meeting we'll have Wold Engineering up here to talk about a facility plan as well. So my thought is this kind of runs in parallel with that. One of my biggest goals here is the tax capacity thing. I'd like to really try and get our tax capacity. It's coming from you guys and from the public as well. I'm a strong project management guy. I'm big with employees and personnel and all that stuff. There's just been so much turnover here with my position and the accounting clerk's position. It's just nice to have a reset, have some people come in and look at it fresh eyes. I'd be recommending this is funded out of our ARPA funds, and we're sitting very healthy with that right now. And we have to have these funds designated by the end of 2024. So we'll still have money for projects, after that. Whether we decide to use, annually or whatever, we can decide all that later on. They also do rate structures. They can look at, enterprise funds and all of that stuff. I did not include any of that stuff with this proposal because some of that's water board things. So we can cross that bridge when we get to it, and maybe they can present to the water board for something like that. Shit's kind of doing a flip, but that's just basically why I had invited them to come here and pitch to you guys, and I'm advocating for it. So.
Councilor Honkley?
Yes, Mayor Greger.
Yes, I would be all right to ask a question.
I'm told that typically that isn't allowed, but if you can keep it to just a couple questions, very concise, yes, we would appreciate your input.
All right. No, I was just curious, in your proposal, Dan, it made reference to the sort of ongoing balance of about $6 million we have apparently been holding in cash, and I'm wondering, as a result of your examination of these things, would one of the byproducts or products be developing some kind of an investment policy that perhaps would generate more interest revenues, still being consistent with the state investment standards?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the question. Yes, so one of the outcomes of the financial management planning process is we often will see how much money is remaining in a fund at the end of any given fiscal year, and that gives us a starting point to understand if there is money essentially left over, how much is left in fund balance, how much of that could potentially be invested in securities that will bear more interest income for the community. So that would most likely be it would be an initial outcome of the study, and then having a longer conversation potentially about investment strategies would likely be kind of a phase 2 of the project. As I mentioned in the proposal, we have, it's called Eller's Investment Partners. They're an affiliated company. They're all registered investment advisors. We often turn our FMPs over to them, and they will help clients figure out what to do with some of those, what we'll call investable balances, and produce estimates for the community about how much additional investment income could be created if you were to invest it in a strategy that they would recommend. So that's a very long way of saying yes.
I guess
Yes, we have that.
three things.
Thank you.
Three things I kind of have looked at was how much do we need to keep our coffers going that we need to keep by statutory rules and laws. How much of the remaining balance should we be investing, and then how much of that should we be using for projects, maybe with the facility plan that we're doing for either City Hall or Public Works. Or one thing that I brought up to him when he presented at the clerks conference was we've got a 5-year loan for large heavy equipment at the Public Works garage, and we kind of cycle every 5 years. Well, when I look at our balances, I wonder why didn't we just fund it ourselves, and rather than paying interest to somebody else, we would pay it to ourselves, and why weren't we the bank on that?
Yep.
So that's something that I look at, like, I'd like to do that, but I want to make sure that we've got enough for the first thing that I talked about and the second thing. So that's kind of a goal of it too.
If there's low interest money available and you can make more by investing your money though,
That's,
you know.
Yep.
All
And
what
they
they
do
would-
all, that's what you guys do, is you
Right.
check to see what's more beneficial for us.
Yes, we sometimes joke internally that we try to weigh those things because we would look downright stupid if we told a community, go borrow the money when you could go spend the money when you could potentially invest it more and borrow it at a cheaper interest rate.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And those are some of the byproducts of the financial management plan. We have gone through processes where we have identified large balances that have really gone untapped by communities, and we have seen them set up things like internal financing structures. We worked with one community, for example, that had enough money set aside that they were able to use it for internal financing for all of their water and sewer projects. But for the very large ones, of course. But for all the regular ones that were associated with the streets, they just set up internal loans and had the utilities pay them back over time with a slightly lower interest rate than what they would get in the market. So then the community was essentially paying the interest rate income to itself, and the folks paying into the system were getting a little break on the interest rate. Kind of a win-win for the entire community. We haven't done enough analysis to know if something like that would be possible for the city with like equipment or whatnot, but that's certainly something that we look at as we go through the process.
So you start this process, when would be like I'm kind of an instant gratification kind of person, so like, I just want to know, like, how soon could we start I mean, once you start looking at things, when could we start?
We already have a pretty good sense of where the city is at because staff was kind enough to provide us with 3 years of audits and a few budgets. So
Okay.
part of what was included in terms of the funds was based on an initial review of the financial statements of the city. Right now, as mentioned in the proposal, if the council were to approve it tonight, our goal was to actually have something back for you before you would have to set your proposed property tax levy. So if there were any potential decisions to be made for 2024, you wouldn't have to wait an entire year. It is to say that right now that would be a relatively tight turnaround time for us, but I think we could get you something where at the very least you could set a proposed levy while we continue to work on the plan, assuming the council was potentially comfortable setting a slightly higher proposed levy as some more analysis and discussion happened over the last few months of the year. But we were very sensitive of that in putting the proposal together to give the council an opportunity to make decisions yet this year.
Okay.
And that was assumed kind of getting started around the end of June. We're a few days past that, but I don't think that will impact things significantly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the long-term financial management?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Moving to the Mesabi softball booster gambling proceeds request 17.4.
This is in your packet. Softball boosters have approached us with a letter in it. Their project for Pine Grove Park is a permanent batting cage. The cost they have is around $11,219. To date, they've raised $6,000 through applying through other grants and spaghetti feed at the Legion that they had held earlier this year. We first ran it through the park committee, so the park committee has looked at it. It's in their park plan. It's been approved at the park level.
I just want to say thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We appreciate your
Thank you for your time.
appreciate your vote of confidence,
Thank you.
and you'll be seeing a little more of me in the near future here. So
Great.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sounds
great.
good.
thank you, and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch, Dan. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Sound good?
Yep, so they've raised $6,000 to date. This would be out of the gambling proceeds. The park committee has approved the
Yes.
location, they've approved the project. It would be for not just softball, but baseball, t-ball, little league, anybody that wants to use it. Eventually, it would be turned over and given back to the city. It would be donated to the city by the boosters. So they're just looking for a donation of up to $5,000 out of the gambling fund money. It is an allowable expenditure as it's a youth recreational facility. We currently have about $19,000 in there right now. So the park committee did not make a recommendation on the cost. They just let you guys figure that out.
Parks is
Yeah,
in
Parks.
support of this project and financially supporting the softball batting cage. But my big concern is that the school has a male field to use with this equipment, and females should have equal equipment. So the school should fund part of this project. I think these female athletes have waited long enough for this batting cage, while the other field is done. They're still trying to raise money through the Booster Club, through volunteerism. So I think it is an essential project. But why isn't the school financially supporting our female athletes? And I don't believe we have an answer today.
Yeah, and I don't know if they've asked the school or not. I just know what this is presented in front of me. So
Legally, I think they have an obligation to provide the same equipment to females as males. Is it section 9 or what?
Title 9.
Title 9. That is my only comment, but I am in support of offering the same equipment for females as males.
I don't know much about batting cages, but you can't use the same thing for softballs as baseball?
you can. They will use it.
Oh,
The difference is that this is at Pine Grove Park, and they're
That is the
Oh, this is-
females' field, home field, versus the field in the sports complex is the male's home field.
Okay.
The only thing the school might buck on it is that it isn't their property this is being installed on.
But it's
But
their
they're
high school
home
home
field.
Home
field.
field. Yeah, I get you.
Mhm.
And the girls always do get the short end of the
They
stick.
do, thank you for saying that, yes. Counselors, what are your
It never
thoughts?
hurts to ask.
No,
No, it doesn't. It does not hurt
the
to ask.
answer's always no if you don't ask.
right.
Well, any
Do you want
counselors
to
would like?
table it and put in a request to the school and then bring it back, or
The
what is?
season, the summer season is almost to an end, so
Yeah,
when
it's not-
does it need to be in place?
Well, I guess ideally this would be installed in the fall so they could use it next year right
Yeah,
away.
okay.
So I mean, I think you could table it, and whether you want them to, I guess you'd be asking them to reach out or asking their answer as to what it would be, because it's their booster organization.
Have they asked the school?
I don't know.
Perhaps they haven't, and it's not a matter of them not wanting to support the
Right.
female athletes, it's just they haven't been asked to yet.
Yep.
That would be.
It's
I
worth
want-
taking a little time to
Yeah.
at least get an answer.
I want them to know that we are in support of this 100%.
Yes.
But we would like them to see if the school would donate as well.
We're just asking if they did reach out to the school, and what was their response to financially supporting the female athletes?
I think if you guys wanted to table it until the next meeting and give them 2 weeks to respond to
Yes.
what the school said,
I
sure.
think that's reasonable.
Yep, I think
It'll
so.
still be done in the
We
fall.
were at
Yep.
Rock Ridge's field watching my granddaughter play yesterday, and the field the girls were playing on, there were 2 batting cages at that field.
Nice. Well, we need something at our field. They have 2. Is there a motion to table this?
I'll make the motion to table
Thank
it.
you.
I'll support.
Supported. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will
Opposed? None.
I'll reach out to them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks.
New business, 17.5, interim public works working supervisor. We're all aware of that administrator intends to appoint Russ Stoltman. Would you like to comment?
Yep, Russ, again, Russ was the only applicant that put in for this position. It's a new position that there is a memo of understanding that we've already voted on. It's already been signed by the union, so we're in all agreement. Our attorney, Mitch Brunfeld, has looked it over, and this is through the hiring committee that went through all this and the reorganization committee. So it's all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. I just want to point out that it is an interim tag, and he is aware of that, just because technically Wayne is still on the books. So once Wayne is off of the books, we'll be coming back to remove that interim tag, and then also we would be looking to post externally for a new position.
Very good. Do I hear a motion?
So
Moved by
Second.
and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. New business 17.6, outdoor street cafe ordinance. It's my understanding that there's a little bit to consider before passing this ordinance. Is that correct?
Yep, correct. Yep, specifically, we're looking at alcohol, what is allowed to be sold and not being sold. So we've got some questions out to the enforcement agency on that, see if the current liquor licenses are good for it. If not, if they can, what is the process? Can they add on to the license that they have already? The county has given their blessing on it, because it's parking spaces, so the county is not concerned about the parking spaces. That's something that other, residents or businesses may want to, talk about. You would have to consider that. But it's that, and then the 4th of July setup in Terrell, which obviously now we're past that. But if we were to write the ordinance starting Memorial Day weekend, they'd have to, remove it for that week. So there's a couple things to look at. It's not quite ready, but I just want to hear for discussion and.
There's another issue there too with insurance for the owners.
Sure.
Once it's outside of the premises they're building, it's a big difference.
How many parking places are we willing to give up
Their
on
insurance
Main
won't
So-
cover them.
That would all be in the ordinance.
that would be in the ordinance.
Yeah.
They'd have to have the insurance for that,
Right,
number
but-
one.
And I was
So-
wondering, like, say the Copper Nickel, if they had outside serving, they don't have any way for handicapped people to get in to use the bathroom. I don't know if it's a concern.
Well, they don't have people, is there a handicap entrance to get in anyway?
In the back, you can.
In the back?
I think there's a ramp in the back,
So you could, yeah.
but
I mean,
I don't know. There's so many rules about.
I think when you come to the insurance thing, it's gonna come right there.
Whether it's cost prohibitive
Huh?
or not.
Yes.
yeah.
That would be, I guess, a business decision to
That
make
would,
too.
yep, exactly. And as far as like parking spaces, so the parking spaces, the way I would envision it is to be the parking spaces in front of your building. That's the way it would be.
Spaces
So-
or space?
Or this, whatever spaces in front of your building.
Yeah.
That's what and I have pictures to show you if you
Yeah.
wanna see pictures of
Well,
how
I
I've
think
seen
it-
them set up.
I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just looking at some
Mhm.
of the potential
Yep.
problems. If the business uses their parking places for serving people, then they're gonna have customers parking in front of the other spots taking their.
Well, they do anyway, don't they?
Yeah, well, they do,
I mean-
but.
It's public parking.
It's public parking,
Yeah, it is, but.
so, I
You're
mean,
giving, if say all 5 businesses do it, it's gonna take a lot of the parking away.
But if they're all being full, at the outside cafe or whatever, well then they don't mind parking somewhere else.
Somewhere else,
Just
yeah.
to sit
Yeah.
where
Sit
they
on
wanna
the
sit.
street.
Oh, I'm not trying to sound negative,
No.
I'm just trying to look at the ups and downs of it.
No, it's good, because like, I brought up the 4th of July and the alcohol thing, and it's good that you bring up the parking spaces, and everything has to be looked at and discussed, and that we make a good decision, so.
And I saw that, was it Copper Nickel, they put tables out in front of their building for, there was tables for food and stuff.
For
and they-
Celebrate
or
Aurora, but
was it
that's a
Celebrate-
different, or not Celebrate Aurora, but it was during the Celebrate.
Celebrate, yep, so, and then they pulled them in during the 4th of July parade, or July 3rd parade and stuff, so I don't think that that would be a,
Depends on
I
how
mean-
permanent, I mean, some of the images you.
that some of them do have permanent ones, yeah,
And
like
I-
concrete barriers, yeah.
I should be
So-
clear, this is not for sidewalks, it's for parking
Parking
spaces.
spaces.
Sidewalks will
Yes,
remain
yes.
open.
There's still, you have to be able to assess the, go through the parking or the sidewalks,
Right.
so.
Well, it's not passing today, so I'd like a motion to table the outdoor street cafe ordinance.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to the last new business item, 17.7, other.
I have one other. This is not any voting, but I just want to make the mayor and council aware and the public that our joint sweeper with Hoyt Lakes had a major malfunction.
Our joint what?
Our joint sweeper,
Sweeper,
our street
okay.
sweeper, to the tune of about a $10,000 hydraulic pump. It was not repairable and not able to get it running in time. I had reached out to the county, and I want to give a thank you to Paul McDonald, to Commissioner Paul McDonald. He reached out to his staff, and they sent us a sweeper here and an operator that was able to help us sweep up the streets on July 4th, and it was a very, very nice in-kind service that they did that. So it would have taken us a lot longer without that sweeper there. So
We send them a formal thank you from
we can do that.
council.
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion to send him a formal thank you for cleaning the streets of Aurora.
I'll support.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you, that is very appreciated. We needed a street seat, or a clean street for our
Yep.
facility. Yep. Next, item 18, next regular meeting will be Tuesday, July 18th at 5 p.m. for the regular special agenda setting meeting. And then at 5:30 to follow, regular special city council meeting.
Then July 20th.
And July
And
20th,
July.
thank you, that we just met at 10 a.m.,
10 a.m.
correct?
Yep.
Yes. For a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
I'll move second.
supported? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Meeting adjourned at 6:26. Thank you.